In a strongly worded open letter to former President Donald Trump, the New York Post has called for immediate U.S. support for Ukraine, warning that Russian President Vladimir Putin is answering peace proposals with escalated attacks on Ukrainian cities. Titled, "Vlad gave his answer to peace, Mr. President. We must rearm Ukraine." The letter stresses that Russia's aggression is the primary obstacle to peace. It urges Trump to recognize that continued U.S. support for Ukraine not only aligns with America's moral obligations, but also with its strategic interests, despite what the authors call twisted ideologues within the Pentagon. The letter recalls Trump's recent disappointment with Putin, who, following their latest conversation, launched the most intense missile and drone strike on Kyiv since the start of the war. It also references Trump's emotional exchange with a Ukrainian reporter in the Netherlands and questions why the U.S. would now abandon her and others like her. The Post rebukes claims that aiding Ukraine undermines U.S. defense readiness, noting that much of the aid had already reached Poland before shipments were paused. The letter emphasizes that Kyiv pays for the weapons using European grants, frozen Russian assets, and intelligence that benefits U.S. military innovation in drones and missile defense. Russia is not an economic superpower. It's a dying terrorist state willing to bleed its people in a last bid for empire, the paper asserts. If Russia prevails, the consequences won't stop at Europe. The authors warn a Russian victory would embolden China and signal to the world that U.S. alliances are meaningless. They reject the idea, pushed by officials like Elbridge Colby, that support for Ukraine comes at the expense of confronting China. We aid Ukraine to deter them. The letter also reminds Trump of his record on foreign policy, from trade deals and Middle East peace initiatives to strikes on Iran's nuclear infrastructure, arguing that the same strength is needed now. One missile saved today is 50 will have to fire tomorrow. The letter reads, Putin only respects strength. If the U.S. doesn't stand with Kyiv, he will continue to insult and ignore you. The Post concludes with a direct appeal. A collapse in Ukraine would destabilize the world, weaken America, and damage your presidency. Don't walk away. Underscore. On July 1st, reports emerged that the U.S. had partially paused weapons shipments to Ukraine. The White House later confirmed this, prompting celebrations in Moscow. However, on July 4th, Trump said arms deliveries were ongoing, but that U.S. stockpiles must be considered. The decision to pause certain shipments reportedly came from Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. That same day, Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky held a 40-minute call, during which Trump promised to look into any delayed shipments.